Ladies and gentlemen, everything we do, every word we say, every dollar we spend, every thought we entertain begins with one thing: the mind. Control it and you control everything else. We live in a world where distractions are constant, temptations are louder than wisdom, and our mouths often run faster than our minds. We speak without thinking. We spend without meaning. We react without reflecting. But what if, just what if, the key to a more purposeful, more powerful life came down to three things: your mind, your mouth, and your money? Today, I'm not here to tell you how to live. I'm here to remind you why it matters to live with control. Because when you lead your mind, your words, and your wealth with intention, you don't just survive, you inspire. Our mind is the starting point of everything we do, everything we say, and everything we become. Before a word leaves our mouth, before a single decision is made, before we take any action, it all starts in the mind. The thoughts we entertain, the beliefs we accept, the narratives we repeat to ourselves, these things shape the quality of our lives far more than the circumstances we face. Control your mind, and you set the tone for everything else that follows. Think about it: nothing in life happens outside of you until it first happens inside of you. Whether you choose to pursue a dream or give up on it, whether you speak up or stay silent, whether you take responsibility or make excuses, it all starts with a thought. And the problem for most people is not that they can't do better, it's that they haven't trained their mind to think better. If your mind is filled with fear, doubt, anxiety, or negativity, you will find it nearly impossible to take positive, bold, or wise actions. On the other hand, if you cultivate clarity, focus, gratitude, and discipline, your thoughts become the foundation for a powerful and purposeful life. But controlling your mind doesn't mean you won't have negative thoughts. It means not letting those thoughts control you. It means recognizing the internal dialogue, catching it before it spirals, and choosing not to feed what weakens you. Our brains are wired for survival, not success. They scan for danger, they seek comfort, and they resist change. But the mind is also trainable. Just like we can strengthen our body with physical exercise, we can strengthen our mind with mental discipline. Through stillness, reflection, learning, and intentional thought patterns. In a noisy world, most people allow their minds to be controlled by the outside. They scroll endlessly, compare constantly, and react impulsively. When you don't control your mind, someone else will. Algorithms, opinions, media pressure. All of it seeps in when you're not guarding your mental gates. Control doesn't mean shutting out the world. It means becoming selective about what you let in. It means choosing your focus instead of letting your focus be hijacked. Attention is a form of currency, and where your attention goes, your life follows. Controlling your mind is about building mental awareness. It's about noticing what thoughts serve you and which ones sabotage you. It's about asking, is this thought helping me grow, or is it keeping me stuck? Is this belief mine, or did I inherit it without questioning it? Is this fear real, or is it just unfamiliar? When we begin to ask these questions, we shift from being passive reactors to intentional thinkers. And intentional thinking leads to intentional living. Some of the most successful, grounded, and inspiring people in the world aren't that way because they have perfect circumstances. They are that way because they've developed mental discipline. They've learned to choose focus over distraction, meaning over noise, and intention over impulse. They still face pressure, challenges, and setbacks, but they meet them with a trained mind. That's the difference. Your mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy. If you don't take the time to master it, it will master you, and usually in ways that limit you. An uncontrolled mind fixates on problems, blames others, doubts itself, and clings to comfort. A controlled mind stays calm under pressure, seeks solutions, holds itself accountable, and pushes toward growth. You get to decide which version runs your life. But let's be clear, controlling your mind isn't a one-time decision, it's a daily practice. It happens in the small moments, when you wake up and choose focus instead of checking your phone, when you stop yourself from reacting in anger and instead breathe, when you take 10 minutes to reflect on your thoughts instead of running from them. It's in these moments that mental strength is built. So if you truly want to change your life, don't start with your habits, your schedule, or your finances. Start with your thoughts. Begin by mastering the inner space that influences every outer result. Because when you control your mind, you create the conditions for everything else. Your words, your actions, your future to align with who you truly are and who you're meant to become. Control the mind, and you begin to control your destiny. Your mouth is one of the most powerful tools you possess, and yet it is often the least controlled. With a single sentence, you can uplift someone or destroy their confidence. With a careless word, you can damage trust, ignite conflict, or close doors that may never open again. What we say, how we say it, and when we choose to speak, These things carry far more weight than most of us realize. Controlling your mouth is not about silence, it's about intentional speech. It's about understanding the power of your words and using them with purpose. Words are energy. They don't disappear once spoken. They echo in hearts, in relationships, and even in your own mind. When we speak without thinking, we risk becoming prisoners of our own mouths. How many times have people ruined an opportunity, hurt someone they care about, or escalated a situation simply because they couldn't pause before speaking? In moments of anger, frustration, or ego, we often say things we later regret. But once those words are out, they can't be pulled back. Apologies may be accepted, but the damage is often already done. That's why self-awareness must come before self-expression. Speaking your mind is not the same as speaking with wisdom. Just because something is true doesn't mean it needs to be said right now, or in that tone, or in that way. Controlled speech is not about holding back truth. It's about delivering truth with compassion, with timing, and with emotional intelligence. It's easy to react. It takes strength to respond. And that strength comes from the discipline to check your mouth before it runs faster than your mind. Our words also shape our identity. What you consistently speak becomes what you begin to believe. If you always speak doubt, you live in doubt. If you always complain, your life begins to feel like a problem. But if you speak possibility, gratitude, and confidence, you start aligning with those qualities. Your mouth doesn't just communicate with others. It sends messages to yourself. Your self-talk matters. What you say about your life, your abilities, your challenges, even when no one else is listening, creates your internal environment. In relationships, personal or professional, your words can be your greatest currency or your most costly liability. Trust is built on consistency, honesty, and kindness, all of which are expressed through speech. A leader who speaks with clarity inspires teams. A partner who communicates with empathy deepens connection. A parent who speaks with encouragement builds strength in a child. It's not about saying more. It's about saying what matters with care and intention. When your mouth is disciplined, your relationships flourish because people feel safe, respected, and understood. There's also wisdom in knowing when not to speak. Silence is often more powerful than speech. Sometimes the most mature thing you can do is not react, not argue, not try to win the last word. You don't always need to express every opinion or respond to every insult. Restraint is not weakness. It's leadership. It's a sign that you're not ruled by impulse, but guided by purpose. When you control your mouth, you begin to rise above the noise. You become a person whose words carry weight because you don't throw them around carelessly. In a world of constant chatter, online arguments, hot takes, shouting matches, and endless opinions, it's rare to find someone who speaks with calm authority. Someone who listens more than they talk. Someone who speaks with clarity, not volume. You can be that person. But it starts with mastering your mouth. Don't let emotions hijack your words. Let insecurity drive your conversations. And never let your mouth say something your future self will regret having to clean up. Controlling your mouth also means asking yourself, why am I saying this? What is the purpose behind these words? Am I speaking to add value, or am I speaking to be right? Am I reacting, or am I responding? These questions shift you from being a reactive communicator to an intentional one. And once your words are intentional, they begin to carry real influence. The truth is, people may forget what you did, but they rarely forget how you made them feel. And your words play a huge part in that. Every conversation is an opportunity to leave someone better than you found them. Every interaction is a chance to lead with respect, patience, and clarity. Speak like someone who understands the weight of their words, because once they're spoken, you can't take them back. And once you learn to control your mouth, you begin to earn the kind of respect that doesn't need to be demanded. It's simply given. Money is not just a tool for transactions. It is a mirror that reflects your values, your mindset, and your level of self-control. It's easy to think of money in terms of numbers, income, expenses, savings, debt, but money is far more emotional than logical. How you manage your money says more about your internal world than your financial knowledge. It reveals your priorities, your habits, your fears, and your sense of discipline. Controlling your money isn't just about budgets or bank accounts. It's about mastering your relationship with money, because without control, money controls you. The way you spend money is often a direct reflection of your inner beliefs. If you believe you are not enough, you may spend to prove your worth. Through status symbols, brands, or unnecessary luxury. If you fear lack, you may hoard money and never enjoy it. If you crave validation, you might use money to impress others instead of building security. But when you understand money as a tool, not a sort of identity, not a source of happiness, not a way to compare, you begin to use it with clarity and confidence. Controlling your money starts by asking, what is driving my financial choices, intention, or emotion? In today's world, it's incredibly easy to be financially undisciplined. We are bombarded by advertisements telling us we need more. Social media is full of people showcasing lifestyles that may not even be real. The pressure to keep up, to appear successful, or to satisfy every impulse in the moment is constant. But the truth is, real power comes from restraint. Just because you can buy something doesn't mean you should. Just because others are spending doesn't mean you have to follow. Discipline with money is not about deprivation. It's about direction. It's about choosing long-term peace over short-term pleasure. Money, when not managed with awareness, becomes a source of stress. Financial anxiety, debt, and living paycheck to paycheck are often the result of not having a clear plan or purpose for your money. But when you control your money, when you track it, plan it, and direct it, you begin to experience freedom. You're no longer reacting to bills, surprise expenses, or financial pressure. You're leading your finances with vision. And leadership in money, like leadership in anything, requires clarity, consistency, and courage. Many people think financial control is only for the wealthy, but the truth is, wealth is often the result of financial control, not the other way around. You don't need millions to manage your money well. You need discipline, awareness, and purpose. Start where you are. Every dollar you earn is a seed. The question is, are you planting it wisely or wasting it without thought? Controlled money grows. It builds. It works for you. Uncontrolled money disappears, often without even realizing it. Another important truth is that money amplifies who you already are. If you're generous, money will give you the ability to give more. If you're impulsive, money will expose that. If you're grounded, money becomes a tool for creating impact and stability. That's why controlling your money is so important, not just to get more of it, but to make sure it's aligned with the person you want to be. Your financial behavior should reflect your deeper values, not temporary desires. Also, understand that how you use money teaches people how you view yourself. Are you investing in your growth and your future in meaningful experiences? Or are you chasing quick gratification and external approval? Money is not evil. It's not good either. It's neutral. But in your hands, it becomes a reflection of your wisdom or your weakness. Controlling money doesn't mean becoming obsessed with saving or living in fear of spending. It means spending with intention and saving with purpose. In the long run, financial control is not about how much you have. It's about well you manage what you have. Whether you earn a little or a lot, the principles remain the same. Don't spend more than you earn. Always save something. Invest in things that grow. And most importantly, make sure your money habits reflect the life you actually want to build, not the life you're trying to impress others with. When you control your money, you gain confidence. You sleep better at night. You walk into opportunities with readiness. You live with less anxiety. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to experience a life where money works for you rather than you always working for money. That's the power of financial control. It's not just about wealth. It's about freedom, peace, and purpose. Self-control is often misunderstood. Many people associate it with restriction, limitation, or even denial, as if controlling yourself means missing out on something. But real self-control isn't about punishment. It's not about saying to everything. It's about alignment. It's about living in a way that matches your values, your vision, and your deeper why. When your actions reflect your purpose, self-control stops feeling like a burden and starts feeling like power. The truth is, we all have impulses. We all have distractions. We all have moments when we want to take the easier path, say the wrong thing, spend without thinking, or give into short-term gratification. But self-control is the ability to pause in those moments and remember what really matters. It's the gap between stimulus and response, and in that gap lies your freedom. The freedom to choose the action that serves your future rather than sabotaging it. Most people live on autopilot. They react, they go with the crowd, they follow urges, emotions, trends, whatever feels good in the moment. But the problem is, what feels good now often costs you later. That's where alignment comes in. When you are clear on your purpose, when you know your why, you don't need to fight every urge with willpower. You begin to choose discipline because it supports your bigger goals. You begin to say no to lesser things because you've said yes to something greater. Think about anyone you admire, someone with integrity, someone successful, someone peaceful, grounded, or inspiring. What do they all have in common? Discipline. They've built the ability to lead themselves. They don't let emotions dictate their every move. They know how to delay gratification. They live with intentionality. That's not accidental. It comes from practicing self-control, not as a punishment, but as a principle that keeps them aligned with their identity and purpose. Space to reconnect. This kind of control gives you strength from the inside out when you're aligned with your why. You don't need to impress others or prove yourself. You don't need to chase validation or approval. You start making decisions that are not only smart, they're authentic. And authenticity is magnetic. People trust and follow those who live in alignment because there's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing who you are and acting like it. One of the greatest lies people believe is that freedom means doing whatever you want, whenever you want. But real freedom isn't the absence of rules, it's the presence of self-leadership. It's the ability to direct your life rather than be driven by your impulses. Discipline creates freedom. When you control your habits, your emotions, and your time, you unlock the ability to live on your terms. You stop being reactive and start being creative, designing a life that reflects your highest values instead of your lowest urges. And here's something important: self-control isn't about perfection. You will mess up. You will lose your temper, spend on things you shouldn't, or make choices that don't serve you. That's human. The goal is not to control every second of your life, but develop the awareness to notice when you're off track and the strength to get back on. The more you practice, the faster you return to alignment. And over time, those small daily decisions compound into a life of integrity and fulfillment. Self-control also allows you to build trust, not just with others, but with yourself. When you tell yourself to do something and you follow through, you build self-respect. That confidence becomes the foundation of everything else in your life. You no longer question whether you can handle challenges because you've proven to yourself that you don't run from discomfort. You choose what's right over what's easy. And in a world full of noise, pressure, and distraction, that kind of control is rare and powerful. It makes you stand out. It turns you into someone who doesn't just talk about dreams, but actually creates them. Someone who doesn't chase success, but lives with meaning. Because in the end, life is not about how much you can have or how fast you can get it. It's about who you become along the way, and who you become is shaped by what you choose to control. So don't see self-control as a cage. See it as a compass. It points you back to your why. It grounds you in your values. It reminds you that the most powerful life isn't the one that's lived without boundaries. It's the one lived with purpose. Discipline is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. What's even more powerful is that when you build discipline in one area of your life, it naturally begins to influence other areas. It's contagious. That's the beauty of control. It compounds. When you start making intentional choices in one small area, like getting up early, exercising consistently, or tracking your spending, you start proving to yourself that you're capable of more. That belief spreads. It begins to shape your identity, and your identity drives everything else you do. Many people think they need to overhaul their entire life at once in order to experience transformation. But that's overwhelming, and it rarely lasts. Real change starts with just one controlled choice, one small act of discipline, and that one act becomes the seed of momentum. For example, when you learn to control your morning routine, you often become more productive throughout the day. When you gain control over your emotions during an argument, you start to build better communication habits. When you begin to save money consistently, you start to value long-term planning in other areas too. Discipline creates alignment, and alignment brings peace. So often, stress and chaos in our lives aren't the result of bad luck, they're the result of misalignment. We say we want clarity, but we live in distraction. We say we want health, but we make comfort-based choices. We say we want financial freedom, but we spend impulsively. These contradictions drain us. They create internal tension. But when discipline starts to close the gap between what we say we want and how we actually live, that tension begins to dissolve. You feel more centered, more focused, more empowered. The key is consistency. Discipline doesn't mean you have to be extreme. You don't need to wake up at 4 a.m., live on a minimalist diet, or turn your life upside down to be in control. What you do need is commitment to small, repeatable actions. It's not about the intensity of your efforts, it's about the integrity behind them. Doing what you said you would do, especially when it's hard, especially when no one is watching, builds a kind of quiet confidence that no external praise can match. And let's be clear, discipline is not about punishing yourself. It's not about deprivation or rigid control. It's about choice, the power to choose your future over your feelings, the power to delay gratification, not because you can't have something, but because you know you're aiming for something greater. It's a shift from living for comfort to living with conviction. From chasing ease to building resilience. That shift creates lasting growth. When you develop discipline, people notice, not just because of the results, the healthier body, the stronger relationships, the better finances, but because of your presence, you start showing up differently. You speak with more clarity. You move with more purpose. You carry yourself with a sense of self-respect that inspires to level up too. Your control becomes a kind of leadership, not just over your own life, but as an example to others. And here's the deeper truth: control is a form of self-love. When you're disciplined, you're not punishing yourself. You're protecting your peace. You're honoring your goals. You're saying, I matter enough to follow through. That kind of self-respect radiates into everything you do. You begin to attract better environments, stronger relationships, and more meaningful opportunities because you're no longer living at the mercy of every mood or impulse. You're anchored. You're focused. Your intentional discipline is the bridge between you are and who you want to become. But the bridge is built one decision at a time. One morning when you show up. One conversation where you choose patience. One budget you stick to. One moment when you choose growth over comfort. Those choices add up, and the more you make them, the more natural they become. Eventually, discipline stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like identity. You don't have to force yourself, it just becomes who you are. So remember this, the journey to a controlled, powerful life doesn't start with dramatic changes. It starts with one controlled area, and then letting that discipline spread. Because when you build control in one part of your life, it becomes easier to lead in others. And when you live with discipline, you don't just survive, you elevate. Every act of control is a vote for the future you want. And if you keep casting those votes, the life you imagine starts becoming the life you live. Influence is not something you're born with. It's something you earn. It's the byproduct of consistency, credibility, and control. When people look at you and see someone who practices what they preach, someone who lives with clarity and integrity, someone whose words and actions are in sync, that's when influence begins. Not when you shout the loudest, not when you try to impress, but when you embody the principles you talk about. And the foundation of that kind of influence is control. Control over your mind, your mouth, and your money. We live in a world full of noise. Social media, advertising, news cycles, and everyday interactions constantly compete for attention. Amid that chaos, people crave authenticity. They crave realness. They look for someone they can trust, someone they can follow without skepticism. And trust is never built on appearance alone. It's built on behavior. When you demonstrate control over your decisions, your speech, your emotions, and your finances, people recognize something different in you. They sense stability, and stability is magnetic in a world where most people are tossed around by every impulse. Influence begins with internal alignment. You cannot effectively lead others if you cannot lead yourself. Think about it, who would you rather follow? Someone who gives great advice but can't manage their own life, or someone who quietly lives by example? It's the latter every time. Control creates that alignment. It builds the inner foundation that makes your presence trustworthy and your voice respected and your example powerful. One of the most overlooked sources of influence is emotional consistency. When you're emotionally reactive, people feel uncertain around you. They don't know which version of you will show up. But when you master your emotional responses, when you can stay calm under pressure, speak with clarity during conflict, and respond instead of react, you become a person others lean on. Emotional control doesn't mean you suppress feelings. It means you process them with maturity and respond in a way that keeps relationships intact and goals in focus. Influence also comes from how you speak. Words matter, but even more important than what you say is the weight your words carry. And that weight is directly tied to how well you live them. When people know your words aren't just talk, when they've seen you live them out day after day, that's when your voice becomes influential. Controlled speech, guided by values and purpose, leaves a lasting impression. You don't need to say a lot to have impact. You just need to speak with truth, consistency, and care. Let's not forget financial influence. How you manage your money reflects your sense of vision, discipline, and wisdom. People pay attention to how you spend, how you save, and how you handle pressure. Are you someone who chases short-term pleasure, or are you someone who plans with long-term intention? Financial control isn't about wealth, it's about stewardship. When others see that you handle your resources well, you gain credibility. And with credibility comes influence. In business, in leadership, even within your family and friendships. But influence doesn't stop at how others perceive you. It also shapes how you perceive yourself. When you live a life of control, you start to believe in your own power. You trust your own decisions more. You stop seeking approval and begin setting direction. That internal influence, your ability to lead yourself, is the starting point for every kind of external influence. You can't pour into others if your own cup is empty. Control fills that cup. It creates the discipline and clarity needed to serve, guide, and inspire others with authenticity. And there's another layering impact. True influence is not about control over others. It's about making a difference for others. It's about creating environments where people feel seen, heard, and empowered because of how you show up. Your control gives them a sense of safety. Your discipline inspires theirs. Your example makes the path clearer for someone else. And that's what leadership is all about, not command. But example, not domination, but inspiration, not power, but purpose. So when you choose control, When you lead yourself well, you don't need to ask for influence. It finds you. People listen because your life speaks louder than your words. People follow because your consistency is more convincing than any motivational quote. And that's how you build influence that lasts. Not by chasing attention, but by owning your actions. Not by trying to be impressive, but by being aligned. In the end, control doesn't just make your life better. It makes your presence more powerful. And that kind of influence can change everything.